Arai Guma by Marc Yamaguchi. Chapter 4, Ricky Part 1. Ricky found his two younger brothers awfully cute. The twins were born identical, but the difference in their character was as obvious as the difference in their weight. For one thing, Rory had a hankering for pacing like their father, which made him quite a bit slimmer than his brother Ralph. At sunrise, Rory would attempt to leave the tree den when the others fell asleep. It was necessary to always have an eye open. But Ricky didn't mind, since the other twin was sedentary. In fact, Ralph preferred to be still. He would eat, sleep, relieve himself, and go back to sleep. Full stop. When Ricky thwarted Rory's attempts to leave, Rory would plot mischievous acts against his twin brother, like jamming tree bits up his nostrils, which caused Ralph to wake up and gasp for air. More devious was Rory's threats to raccoon tip the sleeping Ralph, who could fall prey to the yard guard sniffing about below. In these moments, Ricky wondered if Rory took more after their mother Rose, who used to warn the siblings that misbehaving raccoons could have the yard guard as their babysitter. In Rose's first litter, Ricky was always first to concede and last to feed. He was genuinely a nice boy and wasn't hurt by his mother's preference for Rachel and Ray to do the heavy lifting. Ricky looked upon himself as a homebody and thrived on Rose's praise. Ricky accepted that he was best suited to look after the twins when the family needed to go out and scavenge for food. After all, Rachel was smart and could often anticipate their mother's instructions before Rose had finalized them in her head. Ray, on the other hand, had the physical attributes of his father, plus Ray had speed. Rose came to rely on Rachel and Ray's gifts for larger hauls. However, Rose was most affectionate with Ricky and thought if she nurtured his maternal instincts, Ricky would make the happiest of homesteads for some lucky lady. Ricky escaped the watchful eye of Mother as long as he kept Rory and Ralph out of harm's way, or more precisely, out of Rose's way. Rachel and Ray were also grateful for Ricky's vigilance. The little brats often trashed their makeshift maps that were laid out for Mother's approval. Rachel and Ray had a terrific synergy as they would plan evening strikes, but Rachel had the edge once a plan was underway. Everyone in the family recognized Rachel's dexterity with her hands. Rachel may not have had Ray's physical size advantage, but she had learned to climb better, and no thanks to her deadbeat dad, Rose would add. More than anything, Rose respected Rachel's ability to think on the spot. She was graceful under pressure. Ricky prided himself on his powers of observation and a dash of the imagination. Rachel would make a good spy. In fact, Ricky was doing the spying, and he was quietly excited by what she was up to now. Ricky never let Rachel know that he saw her frequently tail her brother Ray, who was returning home unexplainably later each night. Rachel would have to control her breathing before sneaking back in the den just ahead of Ray. Ricky would keep his eyes tightly shut, but his nose detected faint foreign smells on his brother and sister. The odor was more noticeable on Ray than Rachel, so Ricky guessed their secret excursions were related, but they were not necessarily co-conspirators. Ricky never confronted his siblings about this because if the conversation went sideways, he would feel responsible for undoing the relative equanimity the family had been enjoying since their father had not come back. A single parent can be forgiven for overlooking kids' basic hygiene now and then. It wasn't that Rose was negligent, but since their father had left, Rose was provider, teacher, defender, and executioner. She was also the family bookkeeper, and she began to think there was something more to her son Ray's sudden growth spurt. When Rose confronted Ray that he was filling out despite the family barely able to make ends meet, Ricky almost let it slip that Ray's BO was increasingly intolerable too, Ray didn't bother to tiptoe around the lie any longer because something bigger was at play. Defiantly, Ray blurted out that their father had been giving him an education that their mother, a country bumpkin, could never hope to have or understand. Ray would have continued that animals from the countryside were stuck in the Dark Ages, but Rose shut him up, with her left paw coming down hard upon his snout. Ricky was aghast and paralyzed by their mother's violent reaction to Ray's insolence. Ray would have received matching scars to his face if Rachel hadn't jumped between them just in time. Rachel's voice broke the tension with the news she was just as guilty for leaving the den without their mother's permission. Rose felt betrayed, her nostrils flaring, her eyes flashing, her mouth uttering one word. Why?